Greetings, this is Bruce Ruby, the Nostalgic Catholic, with yet another Isaac Asimov short story. And this time, this one is in Isaac Asimov's science fiction magazine, which, contrary to what one would think, it's not like every issue is going to have a story. They all have maybe like an editorial or other article by it or something. But actually, a surprisingly large number of issues of this magazine go by without a single story from him. So when they do have a story, and a number of them will have stories, many of the stories to come will be in this magazine, including this one. So it's not like he had an automatic end, but there were also occasions, like in the previous story, where somebody else wanted, or a couple of stories back, several stories back, where somebody specifically wanted to invite him to write a story for a certain magazine, and he wanted to say, well, that'd be really neat, but he goes to the editor of this magazine and says, I'd like to do this, but I don't want to do it until I run it past you. And, yeah, no, don't worry, I won't get in the way of your wanting to do whatever it is you really want to do. So then he wrote the story for the other magazine. But usually, this is his first refusal. He'll write it for this one, and they can sometimes, I guess, reject them, and then the stories end up turning up somewhere else. However, this story is here, and the story here is called Nothing for Nothing. Alright, Nothing for Nothing. There's that. There it is, Nothing for Nothing. Isaac Asimov, page 136. So, that's all there is in the table of contents. Now, let's look at 136. Interesting piece of artwork. We have two parts to it. We've got this primitive man who's been doing wall cave painting, and if you look at his expression on his face, he might be afraid of what's behind him, but another interpretation could be he just got a brilliant idea that could change his life. Probably as much as the first tool changed the life of that ape you see in 2001 Space Odyssey. You know, back in the first part with the apes, and the one ape suddenly, the monolith has touched him, or he touched the monolith first, and he suddenly knows, and he picks up a bone, and he starts kind of banging it around until he realizes he could use this, as a way to kill game and have food for himself and his tribe of apes. It's almost like that. And then here's the spacecraft going through space, as nothing for nothing. Let's just say that on this particular aircraft or spacecraft, there are three main players. There's the captain. He runs the ship, flies it around here and there, and he's in charge of that. There is the explorer, however. When they get to a planet, now the explorer is very much more in charge. The explorer has a lot of knowledge about how, sensing if there's intelligent life that, with whom a meaningful trade could be set up. And then there's finally the trader, who is the person he trades. He does trading, okay. And his job is probably what finances, from the standpoint of these beings, the whole operation is that we give them something, they give us something. So they look around, they're arriving at Ice Age Earth. This estimates about 15,000 BC. So we're looking at total height of the Ice Age. Primitive man is doing the best he can, while the glaciers have really closed in pretty far. And, the woolly mammoths are still around and still being actively hunted for food and things like that, along with a lot of other interesting animals and saber-toothed cats that, some of those exotic old animals that still existed while something pretty much almost human, proto-human, already was here. I don't know, so many kinds of life are gone, but they were still around then. And that's despite a very, very huge ecological event of the Ice Age. So, I guess, we worry about global warming. In those days, it was global cooling that was the problem. Anyway, they arrive, and I guess the primitive human type people, they control fire somewhat. And they've learned some very simple, crude hunting tools. And as it turns out, all three of these people, the trader kind of feels like there's nothing here. The sooner we get out of here, the better. The captain, well, once the ship got to the planet, he's not in charge. He just kind of stands in the background and has to let everything unfold however it does before you can bring the spacecraft somewhere else. Finally, the explorer is just off. There's something here. I sense it. I can tell there's really something interesting here, and I'm going to find it. And I guess in a way he does, because he discovers some ancient cave art. And apparently there's some aspects of the cave art that are particularly creative. It's kind of neat how they describe it here. And he decides, well, we can't take even a picture of this to bring back with us unless we give the people here something. It's always trade, very strict trade. That way they never take anything unless something has been voluntarily rendered up in exchange for something. This is kind of the policy of these alien beings. So this is where the trader kicks in. So he looks for something and he comes up with an idea. He gives these humans, or at least one of them that seems particularly mentally ready for such an idea. I won't spoil it. Anyway, the story was collected again in Winds of Change. It's simply called Nothing for Nothing, and it's in here. So, one can definitely read that story for oneself, just this one book. And that's really about it. It's a pretty good story. Not toweringly great, but it holds its own in the Asimov canon. And, well, anyway, thanks for listening.